ultimately what we're trying to do is bring people together in real life. And I think there's been a lot of movement towards like what is community, and it's not the amount of followers you have, or the amount of views you get. It's getting people together in real life and coming to a real life situation that you feel comfortable being in, and knowing that you'll be welcome and knowing what the expectations are. And for us, we believe that our app is a great way to do that. But ultimately, our end game is just to bring people together, and smiles and miles is kind of the motto of part 2 of Butts on Saddles.
From KOM Cycling and Michigan Midpack Media, welcome to the Dirty Chain Podcast, the podcast that covers the cycling scene from the viewpoint of the Michigan Midpack. I am your host, Trevor, and Happy New Year, everyone. Welcome to 2022. On this episode, I talk with Connor Grant from Down to Ride. I first met Connor, we talk about it in the episode, but not too long ago up at the Iceman Expo. And I've been hearing a ton about Down to Ride, DTR, the app. And I've been seeing that they've been sponsoring rides and sponsoring some websites and things like that. And I wanted to know more about what they have to offer. And I wanted to kind of put a face to an organization, and Connor was the perfect person to do that. And we have a really cool conversation, not just about Down to Ride, but just about community and getting more people involved in cycling. We will get to that conversation here real quick, but I hope everyone's enjoying their winter. Either you're riding inside or riding fat bikes outside or not riding at all of which is just fine. Luckily, I think I've talked about it in the last couple episodes. I have a fat bike now, so I've been able to pretend I'm a fat biker and get out. And man, I am really enjoying the fat biking. Of course, why wouldn't I? Because it's just so awesome. But we actually have a little bit of snow here in Michigan right now, and it's just like exploring some of these trails and some of these places I've ridden a million times, but on a fat bike, it's just a whole different experience, and boy, do I love it. So I'm looking forward to doing more of that. You've seen some local races, some fat bike races popping up, and I am getting ready for the Polar Roll in February. So I'm sure that I will talk more about that as we get closer to it, and then hopefully while I'm up there as well. Polar Roll, of course, is up in Marquette, Michigan, in the UP. And I've never done a fat bike race before. I'm not sure Polar Roll is the best one to do for your first one, but whatever. I'm doing it anyways. and yeah, and of course, getting after it on Zwift. Doing a lot of Zwift racing, but that's boring. I won't talk much more about that. But yeah, hope everyone has had a great start to their 2022. And let's get right into my conversation with Connor Grant of Down to Ride. I guess maybe I'll back up a little bit, but I did see that you did the Rapha Festive 500, and I want to know all about that. Tell me,
Yeah,
tell me about
I did.
how that was.
It was fun to some extent. It was quite cold.
Is this the first time you've attempted it?
First time I've attempted it. And so the first ride, I was just trying to get together with some friends. My friend Josh and I were going to go over to Nick Stanko's Ninny Muggins ride, leaving from York, because I love York, so any excuse to get there is good. And we had a great ride. Some guy showed up with sandals on, blasting jock jams to kind of set the mood.
What?
And
Wait.
Yeah, it was an experience. And so had a great group.
Some guy, like, hold on.
Yeah.
Just
So I think he just had moved here from Hawaii
Okay.
and was trying to
Didn't
jump
know
in
that it
on
was going to be freezing cold. Like,
I don't know. I felt so bad for him. And I didn't really know how to tell him because the ride was starting at 7 a.m. It's dark, it's cold. Everyone else is like, I don't have anything else to give this guy. But he was so enthusiastic, and we kind of made our way up stadium right past the big house, and we didn't really see him anymore. So we looked back, and I think he turned around rather quickly because of temperature. But yeah, he didn't. I mean, he brought the hype.
well, good for him for even like attempting to start it, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you show up to group rides. And I think we'll get to this in a bit. He was definitely more a bit of a party pace person, and this
Nice.
was like, we wanna get this over with because we know how cold it's going to be, and a lot of people there were going to go for the whole 500. So, trying to save some energy, I guess.
Well, it takes all kinds, all types of riders, but yeah. So you do the Ninny Muggins.
Nitty Muggins. And so toward the end of the ride, Josh and then Adam Hockley was also on the ride. We're like, oh, hey, we're going to ride back to Plymouth. You should come with. And I'm like, so this is how this starts, is you just start stacking rides on top of each other. So unknowingly, I put quite a dent in it the first day. And after that, it was just a pretty good opportunity to get together with some of my friends and just get it done. I'd say the hardest thing was just getting outside, and it's so much harder to ride when it's cold out and you're just having your energy sucked, not only from the pedals, but from staying warm. But it was really cool. Just this time of year isn't big for group rides and meeting up with random people on random routes and meeting new people and knowing why they're doing the festive, and just kind of understanding why it's kind of a special thing.
Yeah, you definitely need some like extra motivation during this time. And I always find like January, we're in January right now. I mean, it's like obvious motivation. It's the beginning of the year. You want to like start the year off strong. But I find December to be so difficult because you're always busy and it's cold out also. And it's just like, it's so easy to make those excuses. Well, I'll just, not ride. It's the end of the year. I don't need to be riding. But yeah, so good for you for taking that on. I haven't done it yet. I don't know if I ever will.
Yeah, I don't know if I need to do it again.
Well, you checked it off, so
I checked it off. But I will say, so I did, I think 80% of my miles outside. I did Zwift for some of it, which is a bit debatable. They opened it up to
like last year, the year before or something. I saw that they opened it up. Yeah.
But it's encouraged to do them outside as much as you can. But
80%, man. I mean, I think that's still pretty darn good. I will say that this year seemed particularly good weather-wise, right? I mean, it was cold, but it was dry for most.
It was dry. It was sunny at times. There wasn't an absurd amount of snow on the ground. Mm-hmm. So yeah, basically everyone who had done it before told me you got lucky, and so I'll take it.
Yeah, for sure. So you finished the year off strong. Now coming into January, did you come in with some huge aspirations or goals, or are you just kind of like still recovering from the festive 500?
I think for me, I'm trying to just chill out, actually. So I'm a triathlete don't tell anyone. But I'm a triathlete who got into cycling. And so this last year, I think everyone attacked 2021 with a lot of vigor, maybe more so than any other year before. And, I didn't really take a break starting from March until now. So I am pretty exhausted and just trying to mentally figure out what the why is for this coming season. And, finalize the race schedule and go from there. So I'd say that, most people I see on January 1st are running 10 miles or a 10K or getting on Zwift and trying to start new habits. And for me, I sat on the couch all day January 1st and just I probably need to rest more and stretch, but
Yeah.
we'll go from there.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
yeah, trying to just relax before we kind of ramp up because it's coming.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, cool. Why don't we start here? If you could introduce yourself, and we're here to talk about Down to Ride,
Yeah.
DTR. Introduce yourself, what you do at DTR, and then we'll kind of go from there.
Yeah. So Down to Ride is a brand with an app. We are all about community and putting butts on saddles. I am the CMO, so I handle everything on the marketing side, which is great. I've loved marketing for a long time, and I worked at an agency before this, and the biggest things is I get to talk about bikes all day and getting people riding, and then I say butts a lot. So 12-year-old me is just really excited about how things have panned out, and so that's been really, really cool. But we've been around for a few years now, and essentially our whole mission, Butts on Saddles, is to make it. Cycling in general is somewhat hard to get into, right? It's a sport that requires a certain amount of gear, starting with a bike, helmet, everything of that nature. But once people get that, how do we enable them to have great experiences on their bikes? And this is a broad generalization, but it can be very difficult to find group rides, whether it just be, where do I look? Is it on Meetup? Is it on Facebook? Is it on Instagram? And then also kind of the secret handshake of cycling, which is, finding the ride or figuring out how to get invited to the ride. So trying to just open up cycling and rides more to everyone. And, we believe our app is a great way to do that. But anyone who's helping get more butts on saddles is good by us. And we're trying to talk about them and what they're doing.
Yeah, that's a great introduction. So if any of the listeners are like myself, especially if you're from Michigan, or if you live in Michigan, it's a little side note. My brothers get on me because I'll say things like from Michigan, and I'm not from Michigan. So they're like, you're from Indiana. Why do you keep saying from Michigan? So anyways, if you live in Michigan or in the area, I think in the last couple years, I started seeing DTR pop up everywhere. I mean, you guys came in hot, and part of me was like, who is this group of people? What are they doing? I mean, from sponsoring the bike classifieds on Facebook, where people go in and sell their used bikes. It's like sponsored by Down to Ride app. It's like, what? And then different races. I think you guys have been kind of a part of just maybe supporting races or like putting on some rides leading up to like Iceman or Paris-Roubaix or something like that. So definitely have been making a splash the last couple years. And then this all kind of culminated at Iceman this year. We got to meet face to face and talk a little bit about Down to Ride and just what you all are doing there. So I thought, hey, why not have you on and just kind of tell us about the mission and tell us about it, because right now you could say that you're an app, and that tells me nothing.
Right.
But just talking to you and seeing other things that you are putting up online and the support you're giving to local communities, it's more than an app. And so I guess we can start there. It's like, how do you see yourself more than just an app?
Yeah, I think the app is table stakes to some extent, and it's more just like DTR is a bit of a, I don't know, it's going to sound cheesy, but maybe more of a mindset of empowering the cycling community to welcome people. And I think for us, whether it be sponsoring Michigan Bike Classifieds, which is a great way for anyone to get into cycling. If you're in Michigan, check it out because there are great bikes on there all the time if you're thinking about buying one. Or Iceman, which is I'm close to a national or a state holiday here.
Oh, yeah.
Is like getting people excited for it. And so I think Iceman specifically was a really cool moment for us. A little bit like Iceman's The Wedding, and we had a bunch of training rides leading up to it that were, the bachelor party, the bachelorette party, the shower, people getting in early. And by the time you show up at Iceman, you know a bunch of people, you know where your fitness is, you know a bunch of people, you know where your fitness is, you know where to go after you finish the race, in terms of where your friends are meeting up. And it just makes it a more comfortable experience. So it's a way of just getting to know the community more before that. And that's really what we're all about, is just getting people together and showcasing kind of what's a really special group of people. I think for us, the big focus is we certainly use online a lot, whether it be social media or our blog or our podcast. But ultimately, what we're trying to do is bring people together in real life. And I think there's been a lot of movement towards like what is community, and it's not the amount of followers you have, or the amount of views you get. It's getting people together in real life and coming to a real life situation that you feel comfortable being in, and knowing that you'll be welcome and knowing what the expectations are. And for us, we believe that our app is a great way to do that. But ultimately, our end game is just to bring people together, and smiles and miles is kind of the motto of part 2 of Butts on Saddles. So
yeah, exactly. And I think that's like one of the best expressions of social media or technology right now, or are things like that. Yeah, certainly I know that you guys are more than an app. It's just a tool to fulfill your ultimate mission. And just like a podcast might be a way to get a community out there and talk about a certain community, or bring together a community. And so certainly I know that you are more than an app, but yeah, it's like how are we using these different tools in our community for good? I guess it's as cheesy as that does sound, but I was definitely seeing it. I mean, I saw the leading up to the wedding, like Iceman, like you said, and then the culmination of that. It was really, really kind of neat. So coming in hot and not knowing who you were, to you kind of having a big presence. So why don't we back up a little bit though, and tell me about when were you founded, or who founded you, or who founded DTR, and that history, and maybe their love of bicycles, or how that all came together.
Yeah, so we're started in Royal Oak, Michigan. Jake Siegel started it. Jake started, he is involved with a company called Tome. So Tome, Jake loves riding. Jake had an app called Comms, or KOMs is how it was spelled. And it helped teams organize basically all their logistics and the rides. And the most popular feature was the app within the app was being Down to Ride. And so that kind of took off, and he recognized a need in the space to, basically, where are the rides? And so he, as an avid rider himself, if you're in Metro Detroit, you probably know who Jake is. He is one of the main organizers of the Thursday Night Thunder ride, which is a great time. And so that spun into Down to Ride. And, he basically was like, I'm going to send it. And it's been around, I think, for 3 years. And so we just launched version 1.0 of the Down to Ride app this past May, and had our first season, which you mentioned, culminated with Iceman. And, I guess I started back in April, and we have a team of, between developers now, I think we're up to 12 people.
Oh, wow.
Who are working on the app full time, which is just great. And this off season specifically, we're working on expanding in the rest of the Midwest and the rest of the country. So I think Jake saw a need to have a tool for the community to bring people together in a way that isn't as fragmented as Slack channels, email listservs, Facebook pages, Facebook groups. If there could be one centralized place to say who's down to ride, where can I find the rides, that would serve the community in a really productive way, in terms of, I don't want to waste your time and I want to get on a bike, and that's kind of it. And so that's kind of how it started, why it started, and where we are right now.
Yeah, I do like the idea of one thing I hate is clutter, like clutter on Facebook or clutter on, you're invited to all these different things. You're part of 18 different groups and you have all these notifications. And I do like the idea of having one central place where this is my cycling outside, keep organize my ride. It's kind of like Strava, except it's not logging your miles. You are using it to find the rides around you. So
yeah, and that's our lane. We're not trying to, like, Strava is a great tool, but this is specifically how do I find the rides?
Correct. Yeah. So I am interested in this idea of butts on saddles, or specifically more butts on saddles. So I want to know, how are you supporting new riders and trying to encourage, new riders to get their butts on saddles?
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess starting in 2020, the cycling industry saw a massive surge in people getting back on bikes because of the pandemic. And so, we said, oh man, it's never been a better time to be a rider, in the sense that, I guess if you're looking for a bike, it isn't great, since they're hard to come by, or components for that matter.
Yeah.
However, what we are trying to do, and it's for all abilities and all riders. For new riders specifically, we've had a pretty concentrated effort to create content that is very focused on how new riders can find and discover and be welcomed into groups, and why they should get into group riding. I think, it's an assumption that we can't make, that everyone knows what a group ride is and why they should go on one. So there's a big education component. And then really for us, our biggest ask for people who love our mission, whether that be clubs, existing rides, or individuals, is to put your ride on our app. And so we have a public rides feature that shows any ride that's happening within 50 miles of you. And so as a new rider, you can go on there and you can say, okay, this is a D ride, or this is a social ride, given the tags, and see, like, okay, here's where we're starting. Then there's a ride chat option. You can set, you can talk to the organizer, and they can set expectations. If you have any problems or any concerns, you can talk to them about it there. And then getting up, and, we're trying to find people that are trying to welcome people to the community as well. So, there are some groups that aren't a good fit for our app or our mission. And that's fine. We're not for everyone. We're for people who want to grow the sport. And so that's how we talk about ourselves to new riders and existing riders alike. But I think bottom line is, for us, is we've seen a lot of success in just the ability to set expectations for existing riders and people who are very passionate, as well as newcomers. And it's cool to hear the stories from the saddle, or about how people found rides through our different channels. Like, we had someone who, they moved up here from Texas, and they didn't know anyone other than, like, the person who hired them. And they heard about DTR, so they downloaded it, and there she is 5 hours later on this group ride. And now she has a ride to go to. And, she kind of stuck around most of the fall and went from one ride to another, and just kind of kept finding opportunities to meet people and get on a bike here, even though she didn't know anyone. So that's kind of like why you do it. Right. And
yeah, that's a cool story. I mean, I think as you're talking, I've experienced it as much as anyone, that the cycling community is a strong community. And when you're in it, it's supportive. It's pretty large, and it's a great community to be a part of. But it is intimidating, and it is difficult to break into it sometimes. And especially if you are a beginner, or if you are new to an area. So any tool, anything that can kind of help that along and help you find those people, because I don't think the community just in general means to be exclusive, but I feel like just cycling in general it seems just, you need equipment, you need time, you need a certain ability. I mean, it kind of happens to be exclusive, even when it's trying not to be. So I think anything that someone can do to kind of break down those walls, it's better for everyone.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you. And I think it's also maybe somewhat difficult sometimes. I mean, cycling is a passion sport, right? And we all have, it's part of a lot of our identities, right? And so, you need to be really sure that like when you want to share that with someone, but you're so focused on like what you have, whether it be races, the rides that you already know about, that sometimes it can be like really hard to have some self-awareness to step back and be like, how do I share this with people beyond, or like, how do I think about my own journey and how I got into cycling and make it easier for someone? Like, I'd be curious. So you moved to East Lansing a while ago. Like, how did you find your group or your community there?
Yeah, that's interesting. And it wasn't easy. I think there is a pretty active group of cyclists here, but I moved in January, so the middle of winter. So there wasn't a lot going on at the time. Honestly, the way I got connected with riders in this area is I signed up for Bay-Roubaix and Waterloo Grit and Gravel, and it was Waterloo that was the first one. And when I finished, my wife Rachel said, "Oh, I just saw some people in some like Lansing kits." And so then we went online and found them online, and it was Capital City Cyclist or Sinair Auto Lab, and they meet Tuesday nights. And so then it just kind of I started going to their rides,
Sure.
and but yeah, it took a little bit of legwork for me to find them. No fault of theirs.
No, not at all.
Because their information was out there. They had a website, they had Facebook, they had that, but just not knowing exactly where to look for that. But once I went to one of their rides, then I got to know
Game
people,
over.
and then then that group turned into another group in the area, and then it just kind of exploded from there. I do like what you were saying about some self-awareness, and I will say sometimes it is difficult for me. I think sometimes I'm protective of of the community or the ride and you do want the right person.
Yep.
And maybe that's not the best way to go about it, but say it's a Saturday morning and you want to smash 80 miles and you want to, it's all on roads, so you want to go 20 plus miles an hour. Well, I don't know if a beginner is the best person to bring into that group. So it is easy to get kind of protective of your community, of your group, of your rides, but then also how do people like me say, no, like we need more opportunities for people to come in and experience this, just like I did a few years ago when I was looking for a group to be a part of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think you make a great point, and it's kind of also like there's a little bit of credibility, right? Like if I bring this friend along, like they better be able to hang.
Oh yeah.
Right. Whereas like, how do we create more low pressure situations or not make it so that, and I mean, I totally agree with you. It's like, if I'm bringing someone along, like it's a little bit of a reflection on you or whatever. Right. So it's like, and I want them to have a good time, but maybe you still need to get a workout in, or you're like, this is my free time as well. So, it's simple, right? Like I can send them to this social ride through the shop, an invite on the app, and it's a pretty low pressure, low stakes way to, get them to meet other people who might be maybe more of their abilities or looking for, the same thing that they're looking for out of the sport. Maybe they're trying to meet other people who want to go bike packing or, beginner mountain biking, whatever that is, right? It's kind of like once you make these introductions, people tend to run with it, right? But how do we make these introductions to the local groups and the local riding scenes a little easier and a little less pressure?
Yeah, and I think you mentioned this before too. The way that I I'm sure the way that DTR works best is when it's connected to good people. And you need good leaders, you need good community organizers, and I think, yes, it's a tool to get people out to different rides or different events, but then it takes someone then at that end of the line to say, no, I'm going to organize it from here when we're all together. And you just can't send people to anonymous events or rides and say, well, sure hope it works out for you.
Yeah, no, totally. Yeah, and I think we got like really lucky with that with our Iceman activation, which just like a brief summary of that is like we had Iceman training rides at least once like I think we had about 9 to 12 a week with ride leaders who are working with us. From Colin Snyder to Matt Acker to Mark D-Ring. Cody and his brother Wes Sovis did a few rides up in Traverse City with us. Candace Chappelle, Aaron O'Mara, like we had these great ride leaders throughout the state who are really on board with DTR's mission of butts on saddles and able to create that welcoming environment. So like for us, sending people who wanted to get better for Iceman to these rides, like there was a bit of, we knew that they were good people and that you show up and you're going to have a good time because these people are just good to begin with. But they're also just, very well known and respected in the cycling community of being able to host great rides. And that's what we want to send people to, whether they're experts or beginners.
Yeah, definitely. And I really don't think, kind of going back to being protective about your community or your group, like there's really no negative to expanding your group. I really don't see it. The worst that can happen is not the worst that can happen, but even if opening it up, expands the levels of people in your group. Well, great. Now you can challenge people. Now other people have more people to ride with, or you bring in someone that will challenge you, or they're just. I don't think there's any negative to doing that. And so anything that makes that easier is great. You mentioned about looking this year and expanding to different states, because I know that founded in Michigan in Royal Oak, but it's not necessarily an exclusive Michigan app because nothing is exclusive to a place on the internet. But so I know you went to Sea Otter this last year.
Yep.
So how are you looking to expand this to more than just like the Midwest market or say the Michigan market?
Yeah. So, Michigan obviously was a very natural place for us to start given connections here and just a pretty good lay of the land. For Midwest, you're from Indiana, like we're all kind of somewhat similar, and it's a good time to talk to clubs right now and just ride leaders about what their plans are for 2022. I think something that we learned is people don't really want to have to rethink logistics in the middle of the season. So for us, that's why we're focusing on the Midwest right now is, a little bit of Midwestern credibility and charm, relatable in that sense as well. And then just finding people as they're gearing up for their 2022 season. And, as we roll out, we have a few different programs, like a community builder program that we're launching this year to get people in other markets who are a good fit for our program or our app, our brand, and figuring out the best way to empower them to, either make their rides better, expand their rides, get more visibility to their rides, and just kind of further their own personal mission once they're on board with us. So, I think distribution for us is probably the most exciting part, because when you meet someone who is really on board with our mission, like they are really on board with the mission, and like that is how you build things. And for us, it's been very cool to have the support we had in Michigan. A lot of people provided great feedback for us on what they would like to see for our product, and kind of walking into these other states with a little bit of confidence in terms of like we worked out a lot of the kinks, and we're ready to go. are ready to send it, if you will. I feel like you always need to mix in some cycling jargon. I'm surprised I haven't said stoked more yet, but I'll try to work some more of that.
We can edit it that in, just like if you want to say it a few times, and I'll just stick it.
Stoked. Yeah. But so I mean, and it's like kind of cool. We have like random pockets of people that heard about what we are doing and love it, from like Austin, Texas to Nashville, Tennessee, to Florida, to like some places out in California. We've made some like really unique connections, but obviously like we're trying to get a big community on board. So DTR works best when, a lot of people are on the app in your area, so you can see public rides or you can see group rides, and you can get out and, figure out what you want to do that day. So that's kind of like where we are with expansion right now. And we'll kind of work from there and see what makes sense. So big opportunity right now. The focus is the Midwest, and then we'll figure out what's next after that.
Yeah, definitely. That's very cool. I mean, I think I will admit, when I first heard of you all, and I think I mentioned this already, I mean, I just wasn't sure, like, what is this thing? What is this app? Mm-hmm. Like, what's it or what's it fulfilling, or, why do we need another thing,
Yeah.
But then after hearing about the mission, after talking to you at Iceman, and then seeing some of the other things that you're supporting, I think it's great. And I do like the idea of having a specific place to go to not only connect myself to others, but bring others into the sport as well.
Yeah. And I think, like something that our big focus is just like, what can we do to make the community better? So, we support the League of Michigan Cyclists. We're pretty involved with MISCA. We're part of, the League of American Bicyclists. So for us, like, we're trying to invest our money in the right places. Like, we're not trying to just, we don't buy users. We don't pay people to use the app. We really try to make our investments in the community, making the community a better place.
Yeah.
And like leading by example that way, of showing like, here's why we're really here. This is just something that we think could be helpful for you as well. Right. Like, and we'll just go from there. So that's our first commitment, is butts on saddles in the community, and doing what we can to empower those people.
I mean, it's cool because right now you're seeing, I think, a kind of a boom of grassroots events and a lot of, races or events that people can go to and be a part of. But I think there is a need for things that maybe aren't necessarily events, but what you need to lead you up to an event. I think experiencing an event is kind of life-changing a little bit. It's like, holy cow, I need to be a part of this. I need bikes to be in my life for the, I need to be at more of these things. But then it's finding the right group of people to prepare you for those events, and finding that motivation. It gets difficult sometimes.
Yeah. And, we're laser focused on what are you doing this week? It's like, for us, events really aren't on the radar. You can put it in if it's coming up, but I agree with you. Like, events are special, and like, how do you prepare for them? And I mean, I'll say I listened to your Moraine 166 podcast, and I signed up for it this year because I was like pretty inspired to do it. I was just like, this is super cool. And like, this event, like, I mean, it was a great story around it, and congratulations on your finish. That was,
thanks.
That was super cool. But, for us, it's like, like events, like, where to find events. You can go to Bike Reg, and you can, that's the event space. Or, Facebook does a great job with events, but how do you find, like, where's the immediacy, right? And how do you organize preparation for that? And, it's like, I think, we kind of touched on this a little, is like, we're on indoor season right now. And part of the thing I think you realize the most is like, you can do an indoor Zwift ride, whether it be a group ride or a race or something like that, but like, you just miss riding with people. So how do we make it easier to ride with people? And then it's like, once you find people, are you inspiring them to do events, right? Like, how many times you heard like, oh yeah, we went on this training ride and this guy wasn't signed up. And by the time we got back, actually, he told us that when we stopped at the gas station, he signed up for the race that we were talking about.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's the cool part, right? And then he's like, all right, well, now I have 3 guys and, whatever to, train with, right? And that's kind of part of the thing is, I think one of the Iceman training rides I was on, Adam Heisel said like, I had more fun on the training rides beating the snot out of my friends than I did on the actual race day. And you're like, yes, how do we get more of that? You know?
Well, and that's a great point. I think sometimes events aren't for everyone, and people don't, they don't need to. You don't need to be racing all the time or going to events or going to these big things to be an active and I don't know, just an active cyclist. Like that. Events don't make you a cyclist; just riding makes you a cyclist. So you don't need to be looking toward an event. So sometimes that motivation needs to come just from, hey, this group's getting together at this time, be there.
Yeah, it's that simple.
Yeah.
Just nowhere to go.
Exactly. That's just nowhere to go. Yeah, I like that.
Put it in your, bike computer, DTR, you just know where to go. Right?
Yep, exactly. So, speaking of connecting groups of people to the right leader or the right person, or making sure that like your community has, the right fit of a person. I don't know what I'm trying to get to. I'm trying to make a segue here. It's not working, but this is what but I kind of want to like finish this up because you had just recently sold a bike on Michigan Classifieds, correct?
I did. Yeah.
And it was one of the best submissions, or I don't know what you would say. The description of the bike and all this. So I was wondering if you could read us a little bit of your submission for, it was a Diverge, right?
Yeah, it was a Diverge. I recently, Harvey Dent was the name of the bike. So there was a pedal wrench incident that I won't get too in depth about, but
is this an upgrade? Are you upgrading? Are you
I did upgrade.
Are you going full-time try now? Like, what's the deal?
Yeah, so I upgraded to a Cervelo Aspero 5.
Oh, nice.
And so I'm in this, and I've had a few conversations with people about this. So I have a tri bike, I have a mountain bike, I have a single speed get around town with a bottle opener bike, and I had a gravel bike that I was using, as a road / gravel bike. So I didn't have, kind of the quiver killer. So I was like, oh man, do I buy a road bike this year and keep this gravel bike? And so ultimately I decided, like, I love gravel racing and I probably rode that the most last year, that I would kind of just go all in on gravel. And so I'll get a wheel set for the Aspero for road, but
nice.
Yeah, I had a bike that I needed to sell, a Specialized Diverge. It's a great bike. I loved it. And, I guess, I kind of just, you see all these listings and you're like, all right, like I'm going to spice it up a little bit. So I think it was like late on a Friday night, and I was just like, the creative juices are flowing. I've got a nice candle burning, and I'm going to just hit the keyboard. So yeah, be happy to read some of it. Also,
please do.
Share that after I had a few messages, not about the bike, but a young lady asked if I would write her dating profile for her, which was quite flattering. And I don't know if there's a record for engagement on this, but I think it ended up with like over 140 likes and like 90 comments. So, yeah, I don't know.
Well, I mean, did you sell the bike?
I did sell the bike.
Okay, good.
That's like another story in itself of just how strange it is to some extent that here I am in the cell phone lot at Metro Detroit Airport, and like some guy is just meeting me there and just like, hey, yeah, this looks good. And then it's like, all right, then we're just off. And you're like, this felt a little bit like a drug deal. Certainly more coordinated, I guess. But
well, that's a lot of setup. Let's it better be good. So why don't you read us a little bit?
Should I get like a storytelling voice too?
Maybe maybe I'll add a little music underneath in post-production.
Yeah.
Ooh, here we go.
Let's do that.
Go for it.
Desperately seeking a good home for my Diverge Specialized, purchased from Fraser Bikes in summer 2020. While this workhorse loves to be ridden hard and put away wet, he has been properly cared for over the years with regular maintenance and TLC. Eagerly awaiting his next adventure, this pocket knife of a steed is ready to take you as far as you can push it. It pains me to part with Harvey, you can change the name, but the only thing worse than letting him go would be seeing him sit around waiting for me to look in his direction. And then Accolades, once finished third place at Northville Gravel Worlds, holds the KOM on a segment called Trashy Northside. Despite being ridden by a triathlete, has never been peed on, and William Hughes once said, "Hey, I really like the color of that bike." And that, I guess that's how you move product.
That's how you sell a bike, man. That's how you
sell a bike. So yeah, pretty cool. But yeah, it was fun to hear from everyone, I guess, too.
I have to say, does that fall in line with the mission of DTR, or do you have to like have a disclaimer like Connor Grant's I don't know, does not speak directly for
Yeah, I guess I didn't run it by our lawyers first. I just put it up there, but the man was super nice. He did get some DTR stickers.
Ooh, nice.
The bike.
Very good, of course.
And I had an extra pair of hand-up gloves from Iceman that needed a home. So he got some Whitesnake edition hand-up gloves. So I guess perks of buying something.
Like the band Whitesnake?
Like the band Whitesnake.
Okay.
They're actually pretty cool. I didn't really want to give them away because I thought, oh, maybe I should keep these. But, just trying to share the wealth, if you will. But yeah, hopefully he likes rock and roll.
That was great. That submission your listing or whatever you would call it. It's brilliant.
Thank you.
So and now I just want to know, now you're going full in gravel, which I like to see. I like to see a triathlete, just parting ways with the aero bars. Well, I don't know. You might go aero bars now with gravel riding. Who knows? But
I haven't taken the plunge yet. I'd be curious what your take on those are.
Well, I don't have them either.
Okay.
I did a lot of racing last year with people with aero bars. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can kind of see some pros and cons. I think they're kind of fussy, but I think they would be helpful if you are doing something like Moran or even Barry 100. I think a few people were riding those. But I don't foresee myself getting into it this year either. But anyways, I'd like to see triathletes like being done with triathlons and going full gravel, even though that may not be what you're doing. But tell me about what your plans are for this year. You kind of hinted towards some things, but you said Moran. Yeah. Anything else that you're gravel wise?
I am still doing 2 triathlons this year. So I'm not totally ejecting from that just yet. So triathlon wise, I'm doing the Blue Ridge half Ironman. And then I'll be doing Lake Placid full Ironman again in July. So those are, great base building races for big gravel races.
You could say so.
I'm going to kick the season off with Barry, the 62 miler. And then have a bunch littered in there. I'm flirting with the idea of coast to coast. Obviously doing Iceman, Moran 166 will kind of be a big one. And then we'll see what happens in between. I think it's cool. Being exposed to cycling, I've kind of, and talking about all day, it's hard not to just start signing up for races.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that you kind of exist in the same world as me, as like, I can only talk about it so much before I'm like, okay, right after this call, I'm about to just pull up the Michigan Gravel Race Series and just be like, all right, I got to get another hit in, you know what I mean? So we'll see what else shakes out. But I don't know. Do you have any recommendations on a must ride race?
Oh,
I did say I was looking into possibly doing BWR in Kansas towards the end of the year, just because I hate my legs.
So there may be a BWR Utah in my future.
Okay.
I think that might be on the calendar this year. I did the BWR in Asheville, and that was an incredible experience. And I think just to experience any Belgian waffle ride.
Yeah.
Should be on
They
someone's
seem like a
list.
special breed.
Definitely, yeah, definitely is. So if you could get to any of them, I think that would be great. Now, you mentioned coast to coast. I haven't done coast to coast, but I think that's a must.
Yeah.
Especially,
like as someone who's existed in Michigan, you're like, this
yeah,
just seems right.
right, yeah. And I mean, kind of going back to aero bars, if there ever is a race for aero bars, I feel like that might be one. But again, I'm not an expert on aero bars, so I can't really comment on that. But yes, so coast to coast is on my list for this year. But I mean, if you're thinking Moran, which is 160 miles coast to coast, 210 or something, I mean, it might be a good idea to. I mean, that's a big season for sure.
Yeah. And I think for me, the biggest thing is I finished last year, like just pretty burnt out. And I don't know if all of us did, just because, you tried to get on so many rides because you didn't have it the year before, and you tried to do so many races because you didn't have it the year before.
Yeah, yeah.
Just like, what's the balance on the seesaw here? And I guess I think as I get older, I'd rather be a little light than a little heavy. So we'll see.
Yeah. But then also, I mean, it's kind of about experience and adventure, and you want those events that will, inspire you to do more later, or keep searching out new adventures and things. And I mean, that's what I love Moran, because it was just an area of the state I've never ridden in, and just kind of a whole new thing. And that was a blast. Coast to coast, I mean, you see the whole. From one side to the next, and I'm looking forward to something like that. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, it seems like between the Ironman and the half Ironman and Moran, like you're gonna be pretty full. So
yeah, I think so.
Have you done like Watermoo?
So I really want to do Watermoo. The problem is it's like a week, and it's like 2 weeks after the Ironman, and
Oof.
I think I might try and do it this year. I don't think that I would race it, just because I've heard. I mean, I've ridden. I'm in downtown Detroit, but I ride out in Ann Arbor a lot.
Sure.
And I love that area, and it's so pretty. And I think it'd be really cool to just go and do it and have, just have like a fun day out there.
Yeah.
And not putting pressure on myself. So I think the Watermoo might need to happen. Hopefully it's just not too painful.
Yeah. And then there's like all sorts of, I mean, have you ever done like Lowell and those kind of?
So I need to get into that scene. I haven't done those. And I think this is kind of part of the transition from like a triathlete who signs up for, half marathons and things like that is just getting in more into biking and going and being able to enjoy these races, and kind of being like, man, in Michigan and the Midwest, we're lucky. There are so many cool experiences you can have on your bike. And it's not always about how you perform. It's just about going and having a good time and embracing the adventure. I think that's like one thing that's super cool about gravel riding and mountain biking as well. That's a little different than triathlon. Triathlon's like very focused on numbers and time, and I don't know, like it sometimes, like it's hard to enjoy it as much because you're so wound up in hitting certain numbers or hitting certain goals, whereas other races can be very open-ended with that.
I think what I love about things like the gravel race series, or just gravel racing in general, is when I used to run and work toward a marathon, it would be like one marathon a year. And everything worked towards that one date, and then it either went great, but more often than not, it went terrible. And then you're like bummed it's like, oh, my one chance for the year, it's over, whatever. But there are so many different opportunities to just jump into a small gravel race in Michigan, that you just find one that works in your calendar. Maybe it doesn't necessarily, maybe it's not like, maybe you pick it because it works time-wise, instead of just picking one for like a course, or because I think you're going to have a great time anywhere, any race you do. And that goes probably all over the country. You can probably do that. Just kind of pick a race, and if it works in your timeline, and go, and it could be 50 miles, 60 miles, 30 miles. It doesn't even matter. And then just go have a great weekend. And then you can have another one in a couple weekends after that, and another one like a month after that. It's not just a single, it's not just the one date of the year circled in red and everything, falls on that date. Everything works up toward it. And then, I don't know. I just, it's a little more fun to sprinkle in multiple things throughout the year than just have everything weighing on one big
race.
Yes, exactly.
Like multiple chances at redemption.
Like an Ironman.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they are special days, though. There's nothing like the finisher shoot at an Ironman, but it is cool to be able to race more, because I think that's something we all like at the end of the day. And if you don't like it, it's just cool to have the opportunity to ride more. And, I think ultimately, whether it be triathlon or riding or running, you got to find joy in the training. And, I think that's an opportunity for DTR to come in, especially with riding, and, find people that you want to train with and just get people together and, celebrate the races. And I do just love how you just can race so much more with riding. And there's almost something going on. It seems like every weekend you're like, you get invited not to go back to weddings, but get invited to a wedding. You're like, okay, this one's on a Saturday and this race is on a Sunday. So I guess I can probably go. Right. So.
Exactly. Well, cool, Connor. This was great. Like I said, I wanted to know more about Down to Ride and everything that is happening there. And I think this was a perfect introduction, and I hope people get involved with it. And more so, though, I hope this is just another piece that can bring more people into cycling and just make our community stronger and more open to more people.
Yeah. Thank you for the opportunity to talk. It was super cool. And we're all about giving, a warm, not ass out hug to anyone who wants to be, can I say ass? I'm sorry, a warm butt out hug. We're giving you a real hug. We're giving you a real hug. We're giving people a warm hug who want to join the cycling community. And it's been a pleasure to speak today. So thank you very much.
The Dirty Chain Podcast is a Michigan Midpack Media production in partnership with KOM Cycling, the source for your bike accessories and necessities. Connect with us on Instagram and Facebook at Dirty Chain Podcast. Email dirtychainpodcast@gmail.com. If you are enjoying the podcast, leave us a rating and review on whatever platform you use to listen. Audio editing and original music by myself, Trevor Gibney. A huge thank you to Connor Grant from Down to Ride for joining us on this episode, and thank you all for listening to the Dirty Chain Podcast. And as always, keep your chain clean, but get your chain dirty. We will see you in the Midpack.